There are moments in life that stay with you, not because they were extraordinary, but because they left a deep, quiet mark on your heart. Like that time you stood in a crowded room. Laughter echoed, the air was buzzing. Everyone had someone to talk to. Except you. You just stood there quietly. You didn't choose to withdraw. In fact, you really tried to be present. You smiled at the right moments, nodded when it felt natural, paid attention to the tiniest details. No one noticed, but inside you whispered to yourself, "Just be genuine, and they'll see me." But as each second passed, the silence around you stayed. You were still there, but almost like a shadow no one really looked at. And slowly, something inside you began to grow tired. Not because you didn't want to be there, not because you didn't want connection, but because you realized you were trying too hard just to be acknowledged. When maybe, just maybe, your presence should have already been enough. You started to feel suffocated by the role you were playing. You talked more, gave more, humbled yourself more. But the more you did, the further away you felt from your true self. And one day, no tears, no anger, no dramatic exit. You simply chose to walk away, not to punish anyone, not to make them regret, but because you knew. You no longer wanted to stay in a place where being seen came at the cost of pretending. Strong people don't need a spotlight to feel real. They don't stay where they have to fight just to exist. They just leave quietly. And it's that quiet exit. That's what finally makes people start to notice. If you've ever felt exhausted from trying to be enough, this video is for you. Hit subscribe if you want to walk with us, those who choose to live quietly, but never weakly. Now, let's keep walking together. 1. Weak people always need to be seen. Not everyone who seeks attention is a bad person. But there's a truth most people don't want to face. The emptier we feel on the inside, the more we crave to be seen from the outside. They don't seek others' eyes for joy, they seek them because they can't see themselves. So they begin to build an image, a strong version of themselves crafted to impress, to attract, to be admired. They laugh louder than necessary. They talk about things they haven't actually done. They wear a story more polished than their reality, all just to feel noticed. You'll find them everywhere. In meetings, they speak more than they listen. In social circles, they interrupt just to avoid being left out. On social media, they post everything not to share, but to get reassurance that I still matter. But here's the painful part. They're the ones who never feel like they're enough. Because attention might soothe the emptiness, but only for a moment. It's like sugar dissolving in hot water, sweet, then gone. And once it fades, they need more. And more again. The more they chase attention, the more fragile their self-worth becomes. The more they crave validation, the more dependent their inner world grows. The harder they try to stand out, the more obvious the emptiness becomes, especially when no one's watching. And that's when the weakness shows. Not in their loudness, but in their inability to exist peacefully without being recognized. Because strong people don't need anyone to confirm their worth. They know who they are. They don't need applause to feel grounded. They can stand in a room where no one notices them and still not flinch. Because they never built their identity on other people's gaze. Meanwhile, the weak do the opposite. They live as if their worth only exists when someone else is watching. They don't truly want connection. They want recognition. They don't really need you, they just need someone to reflect the image they're trying so hard to maintain. And if that attention disappears, their entire inner world collapses with it. 2. Strong people don't need a stage. People often believe that in order to earn respect, you first have to grab attention. Say something brilliant. Do something bold. walk into a room and make everyone turn their heads. But the truth is, the strongest people don't need a stage to prove anything. They don't need spotlights. They don't need applause. Because their steadiness speaks louder than noise ever could. It's not the volume of their presence, but the depth of it, something honest, something unmistakable, something deeply grounded. You might find them in the quiet corner of a room, not saying much, not putting on a show, but somehow you feel it. This person doesn't need to prove anything, because they already know who they are. Strong people don't force themselves to stand out, because they don't measure their worth by how many eyes are on them. They don't seek presence through others' gaze. They build it from within, through quiet self-respect and unwavering clarity. They know this simple truth. If you have to fight to be seen, then what's being seen isn't the real you. And if recognition has to be chased, it will never be deep enough to sustain real confidence. Strong people carry something that attention seekers lack. Value independence. They don't need anyone to clap for what they do. They don't act to be known. They act because it's what they believe in. They live because it's the path they've chosen, not because someone's watching. Like a mountain that doesn't need to shout to be seen rising against the sky. Strong people don't need noise to be noticed. They are silent, solid, and unshackably present, and everyone around them feels it. And because they don't need a stage, their presence carries even more weight. People may not say it out loud, but deep down they know. That's someone you fall silent for, someone you pause to respect. 3. When they are dismissed, strong people don't beg, they walk away. At some point, we've all felt what it's like to be overlooked. You show up, but no one truly cares. You give, but all you get in return is silence, indifference, or worse, quiet disregard. And the first instinct? To try harder. You think, maybe I'm not good enough yet. So you become kinder, more available, more agreeable. You hope that if you just give a little more, they'll finally see you. They'll notice your presence, turn around, and admit you deserve respect. But the most painful part isn't that they don't change. It's that you start changing yourself just to hold on to a place you were never really given. You begin to shrink. You endure quietly. You trade your self-worth for a little warmth from a cold gaze. What you don't realize is, the longer you stay, the more your inner faith begins to wear away. But strong people don't do that. Strong people don't sit around waiting to be seen. They don't beg for recognition. They don't contort themselves just to be treated like they matter. They observe things as they are, without illusions, without excuses. And when they realize they're being dismissed, they don't argue. They don't plead. They don't cling. They simply get up. They turn away. And they don't look back. Not because they don't need anyone, but because they once did. They once waited. They once hoped. Until they understood. True worth doesn't live in a place where you have to fight for scraps of attention. Because if you have to exhaust yourself just to be seen, then maybe, just maybe, that person was never meant to be in your life in the first place. 4. Indifference is the quietest test. It's not words that hurt the most. It's not arguments. It's not even betrayal that cuts the deepest. What wounds your heart more than anything is indifference. The way they walk past you as if you're invisible. The way they stay silent when all you needed was a simple, I see you. The way they're physically present but completely absent from your world. And the part that exhausts you most isn't the silence itself. It's how much energy you spend trying to decode it. Are they upset? Did I do something wrong? Maybe they're just tired. You start making excuses for them while you're the one hurting. But if you're clear-headed enough, you'll start to see. Indifference is life's quietest test. It doesn't scream. It doesn't come with a warning. It simply shows up to see if you'll choose yourself when someone else refuses to. Weak people rush to fix the silence. They overcompensate. People please cling to every drop of attention just to stay connected to something that's already turned cold. But strong people, they don't raise their voices to be heard. They don't fight to hold on to something that's already broken in silence. They watch. They wait. And if the indifference keeps showing up, they stand up and walk away. Not because they don't care, but because they know they deserve more than that. Indifference doesn't break strong people. It simply helps them see more clearly who belongs in their life and who doesn't need to walk the next part of the road with them. 5. Walking away doesn't mean you don't care, it means you know you deserve better. Strong people aren't cold. They once needed. They once wanted. They once hoped that someone would truly see them with honesty and depth. They once stayed far longer than they should have, even when they felt they no longer belonged. They once found reasons to forgive, tried to hold on to connections that were slowly fading. But eventually they stopped, not because they've become bitter, not because they no longer care, but because they've learned. Needing someone doesn't mean you should lose yourself just to keep them around. They've stayed in places where no one really wanted them. They've remained silent when they were overlooked. They've endured being dismissed. But when that endurance starts to erode their self-respect, they know it's time to step away. Walking away is not a failure. It's not the end of love. It's the beginning of self-worth. When you've had to shrink yourself just to be accepted, you eventually realize no one deserves a watered-down version of you just so they can feel emotionally comfortable. Strong people don't leave because they feel nothing. They leave because they understand. Even feelings need boundaries. Even hearts need protection. They don't wait until they're tossed aside to make a move. They walk away the moment they realize they're in a place where love has to struggle just to exist. And that choice, quiet as it may seem, is a powerful transformation. From someone who once tolerated everything to someone who chooses freedom. 6. Life treats you the way you allow it to. There's something no one really teaches us growing up. People don't treat you based on your true worth. They treat you based on what you allow. If you tolerate being ignored, they'll keep ignoring you. If you stay after being disrespected, they'll assume there's no reason for you to leave. And if you keep trying to prove you deserve a place in someone's heart, you may actually be teaching them that you'll stay even without being valued. You can't control what others think, feel, or how they treat you. But there's one thing you can always control. Whether or not you allow it to continue, you are the boundary. The way you treat yourself silently teaches others how to treat you. If you see yourself as temporary, people will walk in and out like there's nothing worth staying for. But if you know who you are, if you protect your self-respect and refuse to settle for half-heartedness, then sooner or later the world will learn how to adjust the way it meets you. Strong people understand this. You don't need to scream to be respected. You just need to stop allowing yourself to be mistreated even once more. And sometimes, that shift starts with something small. Standing up, walking out, and not turning back. Not out of pride, not out of anger, but because you know. You deserve a life that doesn't require you to strain just to be seen. 7. They'll realize it when you're already too far gone. When you were still there, they barely noticed. You were the one who reached out first, the one who waited, the one who gave in, the one who held the connection even when they had already let go. You showed up quietly, consistently, without demand, like something they could always count on. And because you were always there, they forgot. Your presence was a choice, not an obligation. Until one day you weren't there anymore. Not because you suddenly changed, but because little by little, silence had worn you down. You stopped texting first. You stopped over-explaining. You stopped holding on. No anger. No drama. No warning. You just disappeared. And it's that disappearance that hits them hardest. No noise. No scenes. Just an absence so clear it can't be ignored. They start to wonder, why aren't you here anymore? Why aren't you responding like before? Why is your silence so loud now? And in those questions lies a truth they don't want to admit. That they got too used to your presence. So used to you staying. They never imagined you might leave. It's only then that they realize, not everyone stays when they're taken for granted. Not everyone accepts being a shadow behind someone else's passing interests. Not everyone keeps chasing just because they once cared too much. And you won't need to look back to see if they regret it. Because when you've walked far enough, you no longer seek validation from the place where you once had to fight for it. By then, you've become someone else. Someone they can't summon with a few guilty words. Someone whose silence now speaks louder than anything they ever said. You don't have to fight for a place in anyone's heart. You don't have to force yourself to be visible. And you certainly don't need to stay in a space where your presence holds no value in their eyes. Because strong people don't live to be seen. They live to protect their inner peace. They choose to walk away. Not because they don't care, but because they value self-respect over begging, clarity over emotion, and strength over dependence on someone else's gaze. You may have stayed once out of love, out of hope, out of belief that one day they'd finally understand you. But eventually you'll come to see. True connection doesn't need to be fought for to be real. And if you have to fight for it, you were already in the wrong place to begin with. So if you find yourself slowly disappearing in someone's world, don't try harder. Don't raise your voice. Don't give more. Just walk away quietly. Because sometimes the quiet exit is the loudest declaration. I was here, and you should have valued that. If something in these words struck a chord deep within you, maybe it means you're finally strong enough to leave the spaces that no longer deserve your presence. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to keep walking with us through stories that don't shout, but echo long after the silence. We'll see you in the next video.